You are not invisible because your work is not good enough. You are invisible because nobody ever taught you to build the room. I want to tell you about a dented candle and how this simple concept completely changed and transformed the way that I think about everything I create. If you place a dented candle in a really scrummy, cluttered garage, it will look like a piece of trash. But take that same dented candle and place it in a really sterile, pristine environment like an art gallery, and it looks like a masterpiece in art. The candle doesn't change, but the context does. You, as a creator, as an artist, as an entrepreneur, can build the candle, or you can build the room that the candle lives in. One is obsessively building for yourself and to be seen, and the other is to truly move and build culture. That is true innovation and what the world needs now more than ever. I'm Aisha. I'm a meditation teacher, writer, and the host of this podcast, Monsoon Season. This podcast is all about culture, consciousness, and creative courage. I am so happy that you're here, and thank you so much for subscribing and supporting this podcast and channel. The community has been growing, and I have been getting lots of messages from listeners just sharing that they're getting a lot of value, which makes me so happy. But more importantly, I just don't want to be another podcast that you listen to or another video that you turn on and feel inspired by. I really want you to take these concepts and truly apply them to your creative work and business and your life. That is my true wish. And if you haven't yet, take a moment to subscribe to this channel. And I also go much deeper over on Substack. So if you're interested in getting free guided meditations, daily wisdom, podcast breakdowns, and weekly newsletters, make sure you subscribe to the Substack newsletter, and I'll make sure to hit it in the description box. Why this episode of building the room matters so much right now is because we are inundated with AI slop and everyone and their grandmother banging on pots and pans online through content, just trying to get our attention. There has been no other time in history that there has been this much noise. We need creative leaders now more than ever. We need people who are doing it differently and are focusing on moving culture and not just growing themselves. Some context as well is that I have spent the last 15 years of my career building the rooms of the most disruptive and lucrative beauty brands in the business. Brands like Glossier, Pharmacy, Kosas, Live Tinted. And I have just this last year fully stepped into full-time entrepreneurship, and I keep running into this problem. So this is an episode that has come out of lived experience as well, of facing that same problem over and over. So most creatives and entrepreneurs, they spend their entire career building the candle. They are working on getting better, improving their craft, looking at results, looking at outcomes, and waiting until the room is ready for them to be seen. But nobody is teaching them how to build the room. So this entire concept and metaphor of the dented candle actually is not authored by me, but it comes from a cultural innovator, Virgil Abloh. So if you don't know Virgil Abloh, let's just take a second to educate. Virgil Abloh was a Black American designer and creative director who became the first ever African American artistic director of Louis Vuitton menswear. He founded the luxury streetwear brand Off-White and was one of the most influential cultural architects of his generation before his untimely passing at 41 in 2021. What Virgil is really asking in this concept of whether or not to build the dented candle or to build the room that the candle lives in is, are you building for yourself or are you building for something larger? One of my favorite cultural references that really showcases the distinction between building the candle versus building the room is Timothy Chalamet versus Michael B. Jordan. I love them both. I am also like so excited that Michael B. Jordan won that Academy Award for Sinners, so well deserved. But I want to use these two creative powerhouses as an example to bring this to life and to give this a little bit more anchor. Both of these actors are at the same level with their craft and with their exposure and notoriety and fame. But what's really distinct between the two of them is the intention. Last year, Timothy Chalamet made this really iconic speech about how he's in the pursuit of greatness. And this speech got a lot of flack for many reasons, but for me, I really appreciated the vulnerability and the honesty in what he was saying. But what I really gather from his intention in terms of his career is he's really building the candle. He's building this career for himself for to reach a level of greatness that is a self-fulfilling prophecy in a lot of ways. Michael B. Jordan is the same level of craft, but he is really choosing projects intentionally to move the culture forward, especially once he partnered with the creative icon and cultural icon Ryan Coogler on projects like Black Panther and Sinners. He really changed the trajectory from building greatness for himself to building the greatness of his work in his catalog to help move the culture forward in the film industry. One actor is not better than the other. They are both creating and making incredible choices and really mastering their craft. But it's the intention behind it that has shifted. One can choose greatness for themselves, and one can choose greatness for the culture. And another person that comes to mind is people like Sidney Poitier and Denzel Washington. Like, these actors chose so strategically and so carefully the roles that they embodied because they knew from the jump that they weren't just being leading men for themselves, they were the leading men for a generation. And people like Sydney and Denzel have really, not only in front of the camera, but really especially behind the camera, worked tirelessly to uplift and elevate other Black artists and other Black talent in their industry. So it was not only about them really getting the accolades and the notoriety and the credit and their flowers. They were always thinking about ways to bring everyone forward with them. Listen, this is not about content and branding and positioning yourself a certain way. This is really at the heart of it a spiritual question that we all have to ask ourselves. Am I creating to be seen, or am I building something truly larger than me? So listen, I know you are someone who really prides themselves in doing the inner work and working on yourself and developing yourself in all the visible and invisible ways that a human being can. But we forget sometimes that the way we frame ourselves in public actually matters. And a lot of people who are spiritual creators, they underestimate the importance of building the room and building that frame. But the frame is everything. It is not humble to just work on yourself and do the inner work. We must also really elevate the frame and the room that we build, because it is not only about us. Neglecting the room that you're building is not humility. It is a huge disservice to your talent and to your gifts that are God-given and nurtured in so many ways. Another way we can build the room is thinking about the negative space. The strongest rooms are built as much by what is left out as what is included. So let's think about Apple and some of my favorite film directors like Wes Anderson, Christopher Nolan, and Guillermo del Toro. They all understand that the negative space in each frame is just as important as the subject, if not more. Brands with the strongest visual identity know exactly what not to include. So for example, Apple is really known for this. When they launch a new iPhone, during their launch, they show a very, very minimalist highly negative space rich video of their phone, they are not even inundating you with spec sheets or dimensions or any sort of visual pollution and noise. They really just let the phone breathe, and the video is just literally a 360 usually of the body of an iPhone. They don't present their products as these high-tech things with all the bells and whistles. What they do is really lean into the design and allow the design and the negative space of the design do all the talking for them. So for Apple, they are choosing no spec sheets, no clutter, no noise, just as much as they are choosing that minimalist, clean design. And for directors like Wes Anderson, who are known for the richness of the color grading and symmetry, he is choosing that as much as he's choosing not to use handheld cams or have any sort of improvisation or chaos in his frames. Everything is very curated and controlled. What's on the no-no list is just as important as what his signature is. The same goes for us. We all have, whether we're intentional about it or not, the what I am and what I am not. Let's get into the juicy part, which is how do I build the room practically in my own personal brand and business? So tip number one is write your what I am and what I am not list, and I will break it down for you. So your what I am is the specific things that are unmistakably true about your work, your voice, your values. And your what I am not are the things that do not belong in your room. So the aesthetics that do not belong, the topics, the energy, the platforms that you choose intentionally not to use, the collaborations you will say no to. And the what I am not column is not about holding yourself back, but it's having divine restraint. And that is what actually gives your signature structure and architecture. So I'll give you some examples for my own what I am and what I am not list. I am someone who is warm and sensual and intentional and vulnerable. What I am not is super masculine, robotic, sterile, and gritty, or generic. I do not use AI to speak for me. I use my voice more organically. So, organic would be something that I would put in my what I am list and that vulnerable piece. And what I'm not is like super, super polished and super highly edited, put together videos. Again, there is nothing right or wrong about these things. It's just to know yourself. This exercise is really an exercise of knowing yourself and knowing that the things that you are and that you are not, just being really mindful of them, because what is on my not list might be what's on someone's I am list, and that works for them because that's who they are authentically. But this is really an exercise of really deconstructing what is your signature sauce and the thing that makes you uniquely you. And that's the thing that is what magnetizes the right people to you. You don't want to magnetize every person because you are not for everyone. I am not for everyone. But it's important to know who you are and who you aren't so that you can attract the right people, your people, to you. Some other ones that really help me with this exercise is I've intentionally decided I am not going to be vlogging or sharing details from my day-to-day. That is something I don't want to do. I really, really value my privacy, and I think that you can create online and also be a private person. And so that is on my list. I don't do birthday shout outs. I don't share personal updates or information on photos of my family and loved ones. That is just something that I am choosing to leave out of my online presence. Another one for me is also like not doing anything gimmicky or doing like really fast cuts and like sizzle trailers at the beginning of my podcast, because even though that works maybe in the industry and the podcast thumbnails all look exactly the same now to me, like I really don't want my videos to feel loud or in your face or be about grabbing your attention. It's really about intention and about connecting to the people that I'm speaking with. And that is not me like doing like cliffhangers in the first 10 seconds. Like, I just don't do that. That's not my vibe. And it's okay to intentionally choose that. I also intentionally have chosen this year to stop creating short form content, like not making short form content organically. So I am cutting up clips and stuff and using them for YouTube shorts, but I have deleted my TikTok account. I have moved significantly away from Instagram, and I'm just focusing on Substack and YouTube. So then again, these are the things that I've been able to discover by making this list. Number 2, audit the room you are currently living in. Look at every touch point someone has with your work right now. So look at your Substack page, look at your Instagram, your YouTube channel, your bio, your artwork, your email signature, all the ways that people are accessing you from the top of the funnel, and ask yourself honestly, does this feel like it is a cluttered garage of everything and a Goodwill shop with everything, or a clearance bin just filled with a bunch of things that have been discarded away? Or how can you move it more towards a gallery? And I mean gallery not in the sense of like being overly polished or elevated in luxury, but gallery in the sense of like curating the what I am list in those things. Can you remove some things and trust that people will, people who are the right people for you will find you through that little, maybe they discover you through a bio, discover you with a tag, but as they spend time with you, they will get to know the different facets of you. Something that I've really been practicing a lot more recently is restraint and not trying to tell my whole life story and give all my goodies away and give all of my stories away up front. Like, I will just take that simple approach and water it down to like the one or two things I want a stranger to know about me, and trust that once they enter my world, they will get to know me as I keep world building in my platforms and in my spaces. So again, does every element feel chosen, or does it feel like it is just accumulation and buildup and noise? Your candle, which is you, can be extraordinary, but if the room is a mess and chaotic and has 16,000 different messages and different things that it's trying to say, the candle just disappears. Number 3, pick one fight and burn the ships. The room does not get built by someone who is still deciding whether to build it. At some point, you have to commit to the context you are creating. So pick your fight. What is the specific cultural conversation you want to enter? What is the room that you can only build? And burn the ship of endlessly perfecting the candle, perfecting yourself. This is such a powerful, powerful thing. If you really follow these 3 steps, like, you're ahead of so many people. We get so in our heads. I'm someone who's a multi-hyphenated, passionate person. I have so many things going on. I'm a Sagittarius, so I like sometimes, get easily distracted by the shiny objects of all the different things I want to do in this lifetime. But when it comes to really building a powerful, distinct, culturally defining personal brand, how we do that is by truly having full conviction in one thing that we want to be known for and a problem we want to solve, and just burning all the other ships. I think, if I could go back and tell myself like a year ago when I stepped into full-time entrepreneurship, one thing, it would be that it's like, I can't do it all and I am everything. I don't have to put myself in a box, and I don't have to dim my light or make myself small. But we do have to be focused and intentional. And so having one North Star and one cultural thing that you are trying to move towards. For me, that thing is helping as many people possible with becoming more vulnerable through their creative work and business. That is the North Star and crux of everything, because I truly believe this world needs vulnerability to thrive, and not only just your creative work and business, but that bleeds into your life and your relationships. So vulnerability is that North Star for me. And once I realized that is my North Star, all the other things I have burned. I have burned it down. Even though that they are exciting, I know that there'll be a time and a place and a way to weave them in to my work. But choosing to build one room is more powerful than choosing to build 20 rooms, because I don't know about you, but I don't got the energy and the endurance and the life length to do that. I have this one life and I want to be really thoughtful and intentional about it. The candle was always the same. What changed is the decision to build something worthy of it. If there's one thing I can leave you with in this episode, it is that your candle is perfect. You are perfect. You don't need to do more work on yourself. You don't need to heal yourself any further. You can keep working on those things if it brings you joy and it is helpful in your journey, but just stop waiting. Stop waiting around. Stop building other people's rooms and brands. I've spent 15 years doing it, and there is something in you that wants to be expressed and wants to come out and wants to be created and experienced in this world. Spend time understanding that part of you and allow that part of you to be expressed. Build the room, and your people will find you. Your people will find you, but most importantly, we find ourselves through this journey. We find ourselves in this pursuit. Once you find that message that you want to share with the world that will truly help move the culture forward, burn all the other ships and go all in.